The drumbeat for United States intervention in Syria has never been louder than it is tonight. Just a couple of hours ago, the White House announced it had reached the conclusion with, quote, high confidence that the government of Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons in Syria against opposition forces. According to Ben Rhodes, the Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Communications, quote, the intelligence community estimates that 100 to 150 people have died from detected chemical weapons attacks in Syria to date. However, casualty data is likely incomplete. Rhodes went on to say the U.S. will provide military support to the Syrian opposition, but did not go into any more detail. So we don't know whether this could pave the way for the U.S. to provide arms directly to the rebel army or something more even. Much of the recent pressure for American intervention into Syria has come from Arizona Republican Senator John McCain, who today on the Senate floor said the decision to provide arms to the Syrian opposition is not enough.
The President of the United States had better understand that just supplying weapons is not going to change the equation on the ground of the balance of power. Just to provide additional weapons to the Syrian National Army is not enough.
Also today, Politico reported former President Bill Clinton in a closed-door meeting yesterday with McCain appeared to take the senator's side. Some people say, okay, see what a big mess it is, stay out. I think that's a big mistake. I agree with you about this. Sometimes it's just best to get caught trying as long as you don't overcommit, like as long as you don't make an improvident commitment. President Obama has said repeatedly that the use of chemical weapons would cross a red line and spell a game changer for U.S. policy on Syria. Today, the message out of the White House is that the red line has indeed been crossed. Joining me now is Congressman Eliot Engel, Democrat from New York. He is the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He's been a very outspoken critic of the Assad regime. And Congressman Engel, my first question to you is, why do you understand this is happening now?
Well, I think there's a terrible humanitarian crisis right now. We've got 100,000 people murdered by the Assad regime, 7 million displaced people, and 2 million refugees, and it's only going to get worse and worse. And for if no other reason but humanitarian reasons, we have to stop Assad from murdering his own people. The president.
Congressman, let me just interrupt right there. You said 100,000 murdered by the Assad regime. My understanding is the death toll right now is around 93,000, and that includes all parties on all sides of the war.
Well, it's about 100,000. It's probably going to go higher. The fact of the matter is that this is a civil war. In which the Assad regime has been murdering its own people. And now we see that weapons were used, chemical weapons were used. The president said that that would be a game changer, and I think he's confirming that these weapons were used.
Here's my question for you, Congressman. The worry that I have, and I think a lot of Americans share, is if the goal of this is to get rid of Assad, which I understand is what the outcome that Senator John McCain would like to see. I think everyone in the world, if they could wave a magic wand, or everyone in U.S. politics, if they could wave a magic wand, would like to see Assad go. If that's the goal, and this escalation of, say, arming the rebels doesn't work, have we not just put our foot in quicksand in which we must then continue to escalate?
No, I don't think so. First of all, there are all bad choices. I don't mean to imply that these choices are easy or that these choices are good. I think, frankly, we should have armed the rebels many months ago, and I have a bill in Congress that would authorize the president to do just that. I think that we know who the well-vetted rebels are, the Free Syrian Army under Mr. Idris, and we can get weapons to them and help to train them, to use them. This was done in Libya with NATO, and it can be done here as well. It's obviously a lot more difficult in Syria for many reasons, but it can be done. And it should be done. There's another reason here. You know, we have made it a policy, and the president has said it many times, that he will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon on his watch. There's no doubt that Assad is Iran's person in Syria and collaborating with Hezbollah, which is a terrorist group, that they are murdering people and moving on.
But Congressman,
Russia,
when you mention the proxy war aspect of this, which I understand, obviously Hezbollah and Iran have been supporting Assad, and that has actually turned the tide in much of the fighting. It looks like the momentum of the battle might be going in the other direction. To me, I hear that, and the justification to get involved in a proxy war seems even more dubious, because it then seems like we have bound ourselves up into an even more complicated and inextricable conflict.
Well, what would you suggest, that we sit by and do nothing and let Assad and Hezbollah and Iran have their little access, murder more people, and take over the country? I think from a humanitarian point, no other point even, that there is a pressing need for NATO and for the West to intervene and at least give the rebels the weapons that they can use to defend themselves. Right now, it's a mismatch because they're getting all kinds of weapons from Hezbollah, from Iran. Russia is about to send over things. We can just sit idly by and watch more innocents die, but I don't really think that that's what we stand for. There should be no boots on the ground. I'm not for any kind of involvement in that.
That's my fear, Congressman. I mean, precisely that. I think there's very little political will for it. Recent polling shows only 15% support military action. I just hope when you and I have this conversation 6 months from now that we're not hearing from people that now we need boots on the ground because previous interventions didn't work. Congressman Elliot Engel from New York, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You were my congressman growing up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
The latest
You shouldn't have moved away.
in the zany adventures of Toronto Mayor Rob Ford coming up next.